2014's The Equalizer, it definitely is a great movie in my opinion. And if you haven't seen this one, then I would recommend it because it is definitely worth the time. So the story of this one is that Robert McCall, he's living a quiet life in Boston. He's a former U.S. Marine who is now a DIA intelligence officer. But when a teenage prostitute gets in trouble with the Russian mafia, not only does Robert have to step in to protect her, but also generally anybody else that's in trouble. And well, this is a pretty damn good movie in my opinion, from the acting to the music to even the cinematography. I had always enjoyed this movie throughout the years. Denzel Washington was cast perfectly in the role, and while some things could have been improved upon a tad bit, I like this film for what it is. It's entertaining, and certainly it's a compelling movie to watch. Sure, this movie does have its entertaining moments, but it also has some slow parts as well, so this one is not for everybody. Not an Oscar-worthy film, I wasn't expecting this one to be, but the movie does keep me interested. I like the characters. And at the end of the day, this movie has more pros than cons, and that's always a win in my book, because this one could have been an awful film, but thankfully that wasn't the case. Denzel Washington did a great job playing Robert McCall. He really wants to escape his past. So he's working at this hardware store, but he has to save this Russian prostitute. So he used his special skills in order to save her. And I also thought that Chloe Grace Moretz did a good job as well. The only issue I had is that she disappears for most of the movie. I get it story-wise, but I really would have liked to see those two characters interact a little bit more. But the cool thing about Robert is how calculating he is. He counts the movements of his enemies, so when he counters them, he's very effective. While the story isn't the greatest, it still is interesting. The subplot, I should say, about Elena and her, pimps and all that, I felt like if it was drawn out, this movie probably wouldn't have been as entertaining. Sure, the action scenes, they're not the best, but it still works. Like, when I first saw this film, I was just amazed at how dangerous Robert is and the lengths he was willing to go on to protect those he cared about. He doesn't have a family. He has friends, people he worked with, and he actually does help out quite a few families in this movie. David Harper and Martin Kosokas, certainly they were good villains. Not the best because we don't know much about them, but I did like their acting in this film. And not just that, but there are 2 TV series, one being a reboot, and this getting a 3rd film that is coming out next month. But what is particularly interesting is how this film, as successful as it was, it probably wouldn't have been that way if Denzel Washington wasn't in the main role. He's one of the best actors in Hollywood. And without him being in this film, then his character probably wouldn't have been as interesting compared to, if someone else played that character. When it comes down to it, while this is not one of the best movies from director Anton Fuqua, it still is interesting for what it is. It's entertaining, and it's also far from a bore fest as well. I'm giving this film an 8 out of 10. Now, interesting enough is while it doesn't have huge action scenes, the suspense just had me on the edge of my seat the first time I saw this all those years ago. And while I wish there was more character development, I would highly recommend for people who hasn't seen this film to check it out because it is a good time and it certainly is a very compelling film all throughout it. And that is my review of The Equalizer. Okay, leave your comments down below in the section and let me know what you think about this movie. My review of The Equalizer 2 will be coming up next. Alright, this is Slim Guy 172 saying peace out.